2025 was genuinely a fantastic year for music. In terms of the albums I listened to, it's probably my favorite of the decade so far. I personally listened to 36 albums that came out this year, so not a crazy amount, but I think it's a good amount to where my top 10 is quite solid. These 10 albums are all really, really good, and I think are definitely worthy of being up there in the year. I always kind of fuck up because I don't quite keep up with the new stuff that comes out as much as I would want to. And then by the time December comes around, I'm like, fuck, I wanted to make a year-end list and I haven't listened to enough stuff. So I kind of have to play catch-up with the stuff I wanted to get around to. I do think I played pretty good catch-up in December. I think I listened to most of the stuff that I wanted to this year. There's obviously some records that I would absolutely love if I listened to them. But even the ones I did listen to, there's quite a lot that did not make my top 10 that I do quite enjoy. So here are my quick-fire honorable mentions. This is like the top 20. It's not ranked, but if I were to make a top 20, then these would be 11 through 20 in whatever order. So shout out to Loyal Corner, The Lost Dinner Party, King Gizzard, FKA Twigs, De La Soul, 21 Pilots, Danny Brown, Viagra Boys, Billy Woods, and last but certainly not least, Clips. They all released some really great records this year. Yeah, it might be a little crazy to leave Clips off of this list. Look, I did really, really enjoy that record. Just not quite as much as some other people and as my number 10 spot here. Also, you might be like, hey, this video is fucking late. Everybody's already done this in late December and you're out here in... I don't know, I'm recording this the 8th of January. As I mentioned, like I listened to a bunch of shit in December. I only really finalized this list a couple weeks ago. And currently I'm dealing with finals. And these are probably the hardest finals of my life. I don't even think it's gonna get harder than this. This is like the final boss, the academic final boss. And I'm out here fighting that guy while also going on the side quest. So I don't know how long this is gonna take. This might come out way too late, but whatever, man. It's fine. Let's just have some fun. Here's the top 10.
Like you from a flower, I see the breaking
open fire, all my life a fighter. Dropped out of college, still I made it through the wire. Betting on myself to take me higher. I'm the supplier.
Little Simz is one of my favorite rappers working today. She is just remarkably consistent. I haven't listened to all her records, but I've listened to her last 4, I think, and they're all great. In fact, this is not my favorite of hers. I definitely prefer Introvert, and I haven't listened to No Thank You in a while, but I would assume I like that more than this. Mostly just based off of Gorilla and Angel being fucking incredible, but yeah. I really like her, and this is another banger by her, Lotus. Little Simz is like the best at intros. She always puts the best song at the start, and this is another great example of that. Thief is just such a great, like, powerful, in-your-face way to start this album. It's like the angriest song I've heard from her. The production is quite a lot darker than what she normally raps over, but it works very well. It's a fantastic track, a really great way to set the mood, although I don't feel like it actually sets the mood for the album that it's on all that well, because the rest of this is a lot more the standard Little Simz affair, which is fine, because the standard Little Simz affair is fantastic. It's just not quite what Thief was leading me to believe the album was going to be, and the rest of it is definitely not as good as that song, in my opinion. Although the second song, Flood, is actually kind of in line with Thief as well, but then you go into Young, and it's like, oh, okay, so this is not really a cohesive, this is not a concept album by any means. I've heard some hate for Young. I quite like it. I think it's a really fun parody of British punk music. It just doesn't really fit on here all that well. The rest of this record is a lot more introspective, a lot more serious. So this song is just kind of, I don't know if it should be on here, but whatever, it's fine. Then you kind of go into a sequence of tracks that aren't that memorable to me. Like, I probably couldn't tell you exactly how they sound just by looking at the title right now. But when I get to them, I'm like kind of reminded, like, oh yeah, this is a fun song. I think especially the hooks on this album are all really, really solid. Near the middle, it does kind of drag for me, but I'll be honest, the main reason this is on the list here at number 10 is because of that opener and because of the last 4 songs, which are a fantastic way to end off the record. Starting off with Blood, which is like this conversation with her brother talking about the roles they serve in each other's life. It's a really good song. It just kind of confused me for a while because in the song, the brother, the other guy, what's his name? Wait, is it Reg22 or Cash? Holy shit, I'm so dark when Spotify is open. One of these two guys, they're really great on the song, but they fill the role of the artist character. It's like, oh, you're always out touring and shit, but like, wouldn't that be her? I think the song might be from she's kind of like writing from her sibling's perspective or something. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe it's just completely fictional. It doesn't really matter either way. I think it's a really great song. Then afterwards is the title track, Lotus, which features one of my favorite artists working today, Michael Kiwanuka. He's fantastic on there. And this is kind of her dipping into that orchestral sound again from Introvert a little bit, which is probably my favorite sound of hers. I think this is another great, like, big epic song from her. Then Lonely has a fantastic beat. I love the kind of like minimalistic production at the start, and then you get the guitars and then the strings at the very end. Really great build up there. And then the final track features another one of my favorite artists working today, Sampha, who again knocks it out of the park. So yeah, the last 4 tracks, fantastic. The rest of the album, also really good, but not quite on that level, which is why this album only made the number 10 spot. But let's move on, because I've already talked about this longer than I was intending to. Next up.
Got me believing to live forever, to tell stories of who light up your eyes. We wear, we dance, survive, we fly. That's magical love. It's magical love.
McKinley Dixon is an artist I wasn't really that familiar with before this year. I'd heard some murmurings of his last record, but then everybody and their mom was glazing this thing, Magic Alive, and I heard it was jazz rap, which is probably my favorite genre, definitely one of my favorite genres. So I had to listen to it, and yeah, this definitely does jazz rap justice. It's not just like dipping its toes into it. This is full on like live jazz instrumentation, and it's really lush. It's really fantastic. It's very varied as well. It's not just your typical jazz rap beats. It goes into a lot of different pockets. Like on the song Recitative, is that how you say it? I'll look it up. Okay, I'll look it up. Emma, are you gonna tell me what you're gonna say to me? I'm so dark, bro. The lighting in this video sucks. I'm sorry. I'm just a dude. I'm just a guy.
Recitative.
Oh, that's too British. Recitative. Yes, recitative. So that song has just crazy production. It fully goes outside of jazz near the end there. Kind of reminds me of JPEG Mafia's last record with that like near metal, like heavy guitar, just fucking going crazy in your face. I love it. That song is really fantastic. And yeah, just overall, the production on here is great. McKinley Dixon, definitely also a really, really great rapper. I'm assuming there's a lot in the lyrics here that I'm missing. I haven't really fully sunk my teeth into this album yet. This is one that I only discovered like quite recently. So I will definitely give it more listens in the future. Yeah, overall, like everyone and their mom, as I said, has already talked about why this is so great. You can probably hear other people give a better perspective on it. I'm not gonna yap about this for too long. Highly recommend this. 8 out of 10. I didn't say the rating for the last one. The last one was also an 8 out of 10. Let's get the number 8. Speaking of which. Elder is a band I assume most of you are not familiar with. I randomly discovered them by listening to Spotify's neo-psychedelic rock playlist that had Illusory Motion on it, which is really fantastic, so I decided to listen to their other stuff. But their main sound, their bread and butter, at least what used to be their bread and butter, was just full-on stoner rock. They make these like 10-minute long big voyages full of just crazy guitar riffs. Absolutely fantastic stuff. A lot of metal influences in there as well, but also quite psychedelic for sure. But then in 2019, they made just a straight psychedelic rock EP called the Gold and Silver Sessions, which has Illusory Motion on it. And yeah, I really, really like that EP. Like, they are a fantastic psychedelic rock band. And then afterwards, I kind of started like melding those sounds together a little bit. But now in 2025, they've returned to that psychedelic rock, to that pure psychedelic rock sound with this EP, which is quite a short one. It just consists of 2 songs, Liminality and Dream State Return. By the way, those names suck. The album cover also kind of sucks. I know, man. It's really generic. It feels like AI generated. Like, hey, ChatGPT, give me some fucking psych rock names and album cover. That's what it feels like. But I swear it's not that. I swear it's a lot less generic than it looks. They have a very unique sound that I can't really pin down. It's kind of King Gizzard adjacent, like that heavy psych sound. But I feel like it's a lot cleaner. It doesn't have a lot of those garage rock influences that King Gizzard have. So yeah, I think they really have a fantastic sound going on here, and this is just another great record by them. Yeah, so only 2 songs. The first one is 13 minutes long. You know I love me a long, just song with a great build-up that flows and builds as it goes along. Elder are like the goats at that. That's a fantastic track. Dream State Return, though, is probably my favorite of the 2. It has this like really, I don't know shit about time signature, like I don't know shit about music theory, but I can hear with my ears that main synth melody is a weird ass time signature. And it's like the tiniest bit off-putting, but that makes it interesting, and it somehow works. Like, it somehow still sounds really fucking good, and you just have that like weird ass melody throughout the whole thing, and then just all other elements moving around it to sort of recontextualize it in different ways. It works really, really well. It's a great psych rock piece. I was kind of debating for a while whether or not this album should even be eligible for the list, because it's not an album, it's an EP. But typically I do include EPs on my year-end lists, and there's another EP that came out this year that I had to include that would feel fully wrong to not include. We'll get to it. But then it would also kind of feel wrong to not include this one, because I'm being like a bit partial. So whatever, even though it's just 2 songs, even though it's just like literally under 20 minutes long, I really, really enjoyed this record. I'm a big psych rock guy. What can I say? And I do think this is a pretty good entry point for the band, especially if you're more of a psych rock fan than a metal fan. So yeah, 8.5 out of 10. Let's move on. This is kind of a special one to talk about for me, because Undertale is my favorite game of all time. I fucking adore that game. It holds a really special place in my heart. I love all of those characters. And the music from that game is fucking phenomenal as well. That soundtrack, for a while there, that soundtrack was my music taste. My music taste was just Undertale and Eminem. Like, that was all I listened to. And still to this day, I fucking love that album. And I do call it an album, like it's a soundtrack, but it works really well on its own. And it's kind of like separated itself a little bit for me from the game. It's like its own entity. It kind of tells its own story. What's kind of crazy is right after I played Undertale for the first time, like basically a couple months afterwards, is when the first chapter of Deltarune released, which is what's gonna be the big sequel to Undertale. And then a couple years after, chapter 2 came out, and then this year we got chapters 3 and 4. And I think they're both really, really good. I mean, chapter 3 is definitely the weakest so far. I do quite enjoy it. But chapter 4 is where it's at, especially the beginning Light World section. If you've played the game, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. That part is really, really good. And then the Dark World section is just so atmospheric. And a lot of that does come from the music. So let's finally fucking talk about the music here. I like the music from the first 2 chapters. In fact, there's some absolute bangers on there that are like Undertale levels. Specifically talking about Rootbuster, Field of Hopes and Dreams, Checker Dance, The Cyber's World, Knock You Down, and of course Big Shot. But overall, those soundtracks definitely don't work as well as albums as Undertale did. They are just really bloated. Like, both of those records are 40 minutes long on their own. This record from this year, chapter 3 and 4, is an hour and a half long. If he keeps this up for all the chapters, there's going to be 7, so it's going to be like nearly 5 hours of music, which is a little ridiculous. And there is a lot of filler, if you ask me. There's a lot of repeating melody. That was a thing in Undertale, like the leitmotifs and stuff. But there it didn't feel quite as repetitive as it does here. Like, there are a lot of songs where it's just like, okay, is this melody again just ever so slightly different? Did that really need to be a separate song? It's okay. You don't have to include every single minute variation of the same song. It's fine. So yeah, those first 2 chapters, they're good soundtracks, but I was never too crazy about them. But this fucking year, okay. Chapter 3, that soundtrack, definitely the best so far. Still not like crazy levels, but it is really, really good. I won't spoil the game too much here, but there was a bit of a 8-bit theme going on with that chapter. So there are some 8-bit songs on here, which isn't quite my thing. Some of them sound a little basic, but there are some absolute fucking bangers once again. The highlights are really, really high on chapter 3. You got Rooter Buster, the even better version of the already fantastic Root Buster. Welcome to the Green Room. Oh my god, that song is so fucking oof. I just wanna vibe to that. Yeah, that song fucking slaps. And you got TV World as well, continuing the tradition of the like main overworld themes always just being incredible on these games. And then Black Knife is another fantastic track. That would be like my top 4 in order from this chapter. So yeah, chapter 3, really good. Some of my complaints from the first 2 chapters are still here. Like, some of the transitions can still be too sudden. It just doesn't feel like he puts the thought into the album flow of it all that well. Like, a song will just end and then a split second later the next song begins, whether or not that flows at all. And that's perfectly exemplified here with the transition from chapter 3 to chapter 4 being like instantaneous. Like, it's like, oh, I guess we're in chapter 4 now. Okay. Sure. There's not even like any indication where chapter 4 starts. This was not released as a double album or anything. It's just one big album. Which I guess I'll just get into that now. I think that's fucking stupid. Like, okay, I get it. He released the 2 chapters together, sure, but why does that have to, like, there's no real connection between these 2. They're just as different as the other ones. I don't get why the albums also had to be bundled together, or he could have at least made it a double album. Because yeah, again, there's not a lot of cohesion in sound here. And there's also a big difference in quality, because chapter 3, I would give that like an 8 out of 10, a 7.5, something like that. Chapter 4, that's a 9. Like, that's genuine Undertale levels. Let's get into this. So this fucking, so this chapter kind of went for like a church theme, and so there's a lot of like organ type sounds in here, which is something I just typically gravitate towards. And overall, the soundtrack is just really, really atmospheric, which my favorite Undertale songs were typically always the ones that really like built an atmosphere that you really could get just fully immersed in. Even though they're like quite short typically, they just fully pull you into this different world. And I think the music from this chapter is the best at that Deltarune has done so far. The run from Atrium to a Dark Zone is generational. That is absolutely Undertale levels right there. Dark Sanctuary is just definitely the best Deltarune song so far. That is just so incredible. And then there's a couple of the old man songs, who's a character, again, I won't spoil too much, but that's a character that kind of calls back to a character from Undertale, and it kind of brings back a lot of themes and melodies from around that zone in the game. So I love that stuff, anything Undertale, I love it. A Dark Zone 2 brings back the ghost theme, the ghost like leitmotif from Undertale. Just, yeah, that run is ridiculous. I also gotta mention Castle Funk, because what I just did with Enter the Green Room, tenfold with this song. I mean, come on. That's music, bro. That's music. Goddamn, there's so many fucking... I want to talk about the songs, but there's so many fucking songs. It's not even worth doing. It's... This whole album, how many fucking tracks does this have? 78. 78 songs. That's ridiculous. But yeah, most of them slap. Or a lot of them are like really short little jingles. But the ones that have some girth to them all slap. The like Dark Sanctuary trilogy, Dark Sanctuary, what is it, Second Sanctuary, Third Sanctuary, that's what they're called. Just again, the tradition of the area themes always being the best. Yeah, I'm yapping about this too much. The soundtrack slaps. Again, I'm really not happy with how he released this, because Toby Fox could have been higher on this list. I know that's what he cares about, how high he ends up on the Bruce top 10 of the year. That's what he does this for. And he fucked it up. He could have been number 4. Maybe even number 3 on this list. But he decided to bundle these two chapters together. But I'm feeling generous. I'll overall give this another 8.5 out of 10. Okay. It's a great album. It's a great album. Wait. There's some shit I forgot to mention. The Place Where It Rains. That's another one I wanted to mention. That's another... like kind of remix from an Undertale song, which was It's Raining Somewhere Else. So I just... That's good. That's good. That song makes me pretty emotional. That song does it. That one hits the spot. I'm wearing the shirt. I fucking love this shirt. I think the design is sick. But I always forget that's their name. That they have the fucking most ridiculous name of all time. It says porn on this shirt. And I've worn this in real life, you know. I think I've worn this to class before. And it says porn on it. So I probably shouldn't do that. But whatever. Yeah, Australia, there's something over there. There's something across those waters in the Upside Down that makes them really enjoy fucking ridiculous band names. And the King Gizzard comparison goes further than that. They are a very King Gizzard adjacent band, and that's how I first discovered them. I was aware of them for quite a while as like a King Gizzard-esque, heavy psych band. And I knew one of my good friends, shout out Nuckshock, I know you're watching this. Hello. He was into these guys, but I never really listened to their music until it was announced they would come to Rockwerchter, which is a big festival out here in Belgium that I tend to go to every year. And so I was like, okay, I gotta get into these guys' music because I know I'm gonna fucking love it. And I was right, I fucking loved it. I haven't quite listened to all of their albums, I'm close, but all of the ones I have listened to are fantastic. They are a remarkably consistent band. And I think that's like the one big thing that separates them from King Gizzard is that their sound has been really consistent throughout the years. It's always been this like heavy psych sound, but they put their own twist on it. It's like kind of punk and a lot more hard rock influenced. They have psychedelic in their name, but that's not really the main sound that they deal with. And that's kind of what I was disappointed with when I went to see them live. The psychedelic sound doesn't come out live all that much. They really sound like more of a punk band live. It's kind of weird. Although I did still really like that live performance, don't get me wrong. And this latest record kind of leans into that side a lot more. This is much more of a hard rock album. And at first, I wasn't really sure if I liked that. Some of the singles didn't really hit it for me, but after having listened to this album a lot, I was wrong. This fucking slaps. The riffs on this thing are just so... Ooh, they hit so hard, dude. They're so visceral. Like, their first two albums were called High Visceral Part 1 and 2. Those are still my favorites, probably. That's just the best way to describe their sound. It's so visceral. It's so in your face. It just gets you going. And yeah, again, they kind of leaned into that punk sound a bit more here. Like, Weird World Awoke. That's basically a punk song. Kind of Viagra Boys-esque. And it's fucking great. That's a banger. But that's not to say they're not living up to the name, okay? This album is still very psychedelic, especially at certain moments. I think they've always, like, on all of their albums, I've always had like a couple more laid back, just pure psych rock jams. I think those always tend to be great for like the pacing on the records, having a bit of the break from the more hard-hitting big moments. But on here, those are kind of the best moments. Like as the hummingbird hovers, that's one of the best songs of the year for me. I fucking love that song. Like that song beats out Dream Stage Return for my favorite psych rock song of the year. And it's probably one of my favorite psych rock songs of the decades so far. Even beating out a lot of King Gizzard stuff. Which, again, going back to that comparison, they reached into their King Gizzard bag a little more this year than usual. Because they decided to release 2 records in 2025. There's also Pogo Rodeo, which I did really enjoy, especially Salsa Verde. That's definitely one of my favorite songs of the year. But overall, that record didn't quite excite me as much as Carpe Diem Moon Man. That might partly have to do with the fact that came out earlier in the year and I listened to it more, but whatever. Giving this thing an 8.5 out of 10. Okay, a bit of a time jump there. It's been about 2 weeks of exams. I got 3 exams behind me. They went pretty well. Thanks for asking. They went pretty well. I'm maybe not in the same condition as I was 2 weeks ago. I'm a different man now. The stress has been making my acne a lot worse. I fucking cut myself in about 5 places while shaving, but it's fine. We're just gonna record this. We're gonna get through this. The lighting also got worse because I can change the intensity of my light normally with a little like remote. But I lost the remote. I don't know where it is. And I can't be bothered to find it. So whatever. So Ethel Cain is an artist that I was introduced to about 3 years ago when a friend of mine recommended her album Preacher's Daughter to me. And I did really enjoy that record. It's fantastic. I just never really returned to it for whatever reason. Just didn't have the time. I don't know, never got around to it. But I've always wanted to delve deeper into her discography, and this was the perfect year to do it, because at the very start of the year, in January, she released her EP, Perverts, but I heard about it. I didn't get around to listening to it, as I always do with new shit that comes out. And then in August, this album, Willoughby Tucker, came out, which I also didn't listen to. But then she was announced to perform at Quadeca, the Belgian festival I mentioned earlier, this year, in 2026. So I was like, okay, I gotta listen to these 2 albums now because they could make my year-end list, and then I'll be able to appreciate her concert more later on. So I decided to listen to both of them in order. So I first listened to Perverts, which I did quite enjoy, but not enough to make this list. But Willoughby Tucker, though, that's where it's at. Ethel Cain is a singer-songwriter who makes slowcore music predominantly, but there's a lot of other different influences in there as well. Just a big old mix, big old melting pot of sad music. She always has this like really tender, emotional feel to all of her music. It's always quite slow. In fact, this is even slower than Preacher's Daughter, I'd say. She always makes long-ass albums, but they kind of need to give these songs enough time to breathe. Her music never stays in the same place. It always moves around. A lot of it is, as I said, quite slow, quite small. But then you often get these really big moments near the end of the songs that hit so much harder because of what they're surrounded by. I especially love the big post-rocky moments on this record where you just get these super heavy, distorted guitars cutting through the mix. It's really powerful stuff. But yeah, again, there's a lot of slower moments. Definitely not as slow as Perverts. That's like mostly an ambient record, but there are also some ambient tracks on here, specifically Radio Towers and Willoughby's Interlude, which by the way is way too long to be an interlude. I think she just likes naming things what they shouldn't be named. Perverts is not an EP. Willoughby's Interlude is not an interlude. That's a complete song. I think she kind of undersells herself. I know she's like kind of playing a character in a way. Maybe that's kind of like part of the character, that she's like, you know, a bit of a depressed individual. I don't know how much of that actually bleeds into her real life. I feel like there's this big Ethel Cain lore that I'm not fully familiar with, because again, I haven't gone back to those earlier records, but I can just enjoy her music for what it is. which is fucking phenomenal. I especially think she has an incredible voice, and she knows perfectly how to use it to really cut into your soul, just really get in there. Even if I'm not understanding all the words she's saying, I'm feeling them, you know? I know that sounds really pretentious, really boring, but with her, it's true. Like, she just has one of the best voices I've ever heard. But yeah, I really enjoy this record, start to finish. I think it's very, very consistent. There's not really a big standout track for me. The only song that kind of stands out to me, but in a negative way, is Nettles. I like that song, but not quite as much as the others. I've only listened to this the whole way through twice, and I feel like I haven't had the perfect listen to it. Like, I think later on, this could move up to a 9, but for now, I'm gonna leave this here with an 8.5 out of 10. Felt like I didn't have that much to say about this one, specifically this one, because I lied to you. I lied to you. You're such a gullible little fool. You just believed me when I told you that I didn't like Perverts as much. You think that of me? I am the one who enjoys Perverts. Okay, I enjoyed Perverts a lot. Let's get into it. Yeah, I actually also only listened to this one twice, but I did feel like I got a really good feel for this one, because I kind of had to. Like, you have to really get in the right headspace to listen to this front to back, because it's an hour and a half long. Okay, this is the EP that I was talking about earlier when discussing the Elder record. That is not an EP. This is an hour and a half. That's not what are we doing? I get that she's kind of like signaling that this is not as important of an album. I think she got like a pretty big following off of TikTok, who are more into her like pop-centric sound. So I guess she didn't want to scare those fans off too much by showing like, okay, this is an EP, you're gonna get more mainline stuff later on, even though Willoughby Tucker is also like not really all that much of a pop record. But this one certainly isn't. Like, this is almost fully ambient post-rock goodness. Although I say that she wasn't trying to scare off her fans, but I've actually heard some people say that this is like a bit of a shitpost album where she was actually intentionally scaring off those fans. Like, if you're a real Ethel Cain fan, then this is what you're into. You know, like a test, which I think is a bit silly. I don't think that's true, really. And I think that kind of plays into her narrative of this being a bit of a side project, not being as important, which I just don't understand at all. I mean, again, this is an hour and a half long. I can only imagine she put a lot of time into this. Like, obviously, ambient music is a lot easier to make, quote unquote, than whatever she was doing on Willoughby Tucker, but still, like, calling this an EP, calling this a side project, just feels a bit weird to me. This thing really takes advantage of that long runtime, though, as it really draws you in, immerses you into this entirely different universe that I can't really describe. I feel like the album cover is kind of the best representation of whatever this world is. It kind of reminds me of Godspeed You Black Emperor's F-sharp, A-sharp Infinity in that way, in that kind of dark world building that you get here. And in fact, that comparison runs much deeper. A lot of songs on here remind me of that album, especially when you get into the spoken word sections, the big post-rock moments. Again, you also had that on Willoughby Tucker, but here, because the rest of the album is even quieter, even slower, those moments hit that much harder. Yeah, that's a very positive comparison. Okay, F-sharp, A-sharp Infinity is one of my favorite albums of all time. So if you can remind me of that, you're doing a good thing. And weirdly, even though this thing is even longer and even slower and even more off-putting to a lot of people, this thing kind of held my attention better than Willoughby Tucker. And I feel like a lot of that comes from, again, how immersive it feels and from how cohesive and perfectly paced this album is. So yeah, as I mentioned, a lot of this album is either spoken word or just completely instrumental, which, with how much I raved about her voice earlier on, might seem like a bit of a negative thing. Like, I want to hear her voice, and I certainly want to hear her voice. But again, just like what I said about the big post-rock moments, her lack of singing on this makes the moments that you do hear her voice hit that much fucking harder. Like, take the first two songs here. You start with the title track, which, if you're gonna buy into the theory that this album is trolling the TikTok fans, that this is a pretty good like supporting piece of evidence, because this is probably the slowest, most ambient song on the whole thing. It kind of feels like something you would hear in like a Silent Hill game, just purely trying to build an atmosphere. There's basically no melody in it at all. But I think it's a perfect way to start off this record, to ease you into the atmosphere, to really get you to, okay, I have 12 minutes to get this. If I don't get this in 12 minutes, I might as well stop listening. But if in 12 minutes I'm invested and I want to listen more, then you can keep going. And then you get rewarded for that patience with Punish, which is the biggest song off of here. Rightfully so. It's fucking phenomenal. It definitely continues that atmosphere from the first song, but now with her beautiful fucking angelic voice on it, I think this is the best singing I've heard from her. The best singing of the year, really. And then near the end, it breaks down into just like a wall of noise, and it's like, oh, it's so good. So then you might be like, okay, so that first song was just to scare off the fake fans. It was just the intro. The rest of this is going to be more like Punish. And no. Are you dumb? Did you read what the next song is called? It's House of Psychotic Woman without an E, without spaces. You think that's going to be a normal fucking folky song? Are you stupid? No, of course not. It's 13 minutes of unsettling ass ambient music that makes me just want to like shrivel up into a ball and hide from the scary monsters. I'm not gonna go through the other songs individually like that. I think I've talked about Ethel, Cain enough in this video. You should just go listen to this thing and discover it for yourself. Maybe you'll get sucked into it as much as I did, or maybe not. This is definitely up my alley, as I've been getting a lot more into ambient music, and all the other influences that this pulls from is my shit. But if you do decide to listen to it, just make sure you're in the right headspace for it. Because yeah, I think this is one of those albums where that is a really important factor in how much you're going to be able to enjoy it. But yeah, I personally really enjoyed it. If enjoy is the right word for something like this, I'm gonna give this an 8.5 out of 10.
Like to living life abiding by a law that wasn't asked for, keeping curse for land below and left to lie amongst the stars.
Life is cold, life is cold, so I sailed away to Mars. Life is cold, now I'm living with the stars.
Okay, now we're getting into the real heavy hitters of the year. LAUSSE the Cat is a British rapper who came up originally on SoundCloud around 2016. I was not around back then listening to any music really, so I was not aware of them back then, but they got a pretty sizable following, and then they just kind of disappeared about 7 years ago, only to come out swinging in 2025 with his debut album The Mocking Stars, which is my first introduction to him as an artist. I'd never heard of this guy. I was just scrolling through the highest rated albums on Album of the Year to see what I wanted to listen to before making my year-end list. And I saw this, the album cover intrigued me because it's incredible. Probably my favorite cover of the year. And then I saw it was jazz rap mixed with a bunch of other stuff that seemed up my alley. So I decided to give it a listen, and boy, oh boy, am I glad that I did, because whew, it is really hard to pin down the sound of this album. It's a whole range of things. There is a lot of jazz here. I think the main sound I would use to describe this is it's like a more refined and well-produced and interesting and grandiose version of those lo-fi beats to chill and study to videos. It's kind of that, but then with this phenomenal rapper over top of it. I fucking love this guy's voice. It's like a little grimy, a little underground, but still he has this like really smooth British timbre that I just cannot get enough of. And the way he flows over these beats, it's so silky smooth. He's just like gliding, surfing over top of the waves of this beautiful, beautiful production. It's unmatched to me. But the production on here is all over the place. There's so much stuff going on. There's some more electronic songs with like vocal chop production. I'm especially looking at the closer for that. There's also the more live instrumentation, as I mentioned earlier. I don't know if this is going to make sense to a lot of people, but the song Moonlight Waltz reminds me of the band Ugly, which they're like a folk rock upcoming band from Britain, and if you've heard them, you'll know how far their music is from hip-hop music. Like, it's crazy that he makes this all work, and he makes this all feel cohesive, because this is a concept album, and it flows perfectly from start to back. Like, you could never ever listen to just half of this and be like, okay, I'm done. Like, you have to go from front to back, because it tells such a beautiful story. All of this crazy, wacky, zany stuff that should never work together somehow does, with this like kind of children's book theater kid aura. The whole thing is kind of presented as a big theater production, and there's a couple interludes that are just like mostly a cappella, basically musical numbers of different animal characters interacting with each other. They're really fun. And the larger story being told here is of LAUSSE the cat, who is kind of the character that he plays, which I like the cat persona. I'm not entirely sure how necessary it is. That might be a bit hypocritical. I don't know if I can say that, but it feels like this is still mostly a personal project. And there's even a song where he kind of has to make up an excuse to talk about what I'm pretty sure is his own life. So the cat character goes to bed and is like, oh, I'm gonna imagine what it would be like to be a human, and then it tells the story of him on Earth, which is kind of funny, but also that makes me question how necessary the cat persona is anyway, but I don't care, because it's really unique in the rap world, and it perfectly fits with specifically the vibe of this album. So what was I talking about? So the cat is kind of fed up with the world, as we all are, so he just fucks off to space to go live on Mars, where he meets all these zany characters. And I think like the real centerpiece of this album is the song Space Cadet Cat, where all of that stuff happens that when he goes to Mars. And that song, dude, it's fucking fantastic. It's so emotional. I feel like it really gets at something that we've all experienced, that we're all experiencing right now in these times. And it's such a beautiful fucking song. Love the chorus of this thing. Love the rapping on this thing, and love the like spacey bleepy bloops in the production. In fact, overall, I really fuck with the space theme going on here. A lot of references to stars, to Mars, to the moon, to the sun. I'm a big sci-fi guy. I typically gravitate more towards the more like scientific, grounded and like grandiose look at space. But I gotta say, I also really fuck with this more fairy tale, like Jules Verne esque take on space as well. Like the visual of the moon with the face, like that's what this is getting at. Space Cadet Cat might just be my favorite rap song of the decade so far. I really can't think of any like pure hip hop song that I enjoy more than that. Just yeah, this guy really, really needs more recognition. Everyone should go out to listen to this album. It's fucking phenomenal. It's fucking phenomenal. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna be listening to it a lot more, because yeah, I can't get enough of it. So 9 out of 10. Let's move on.
Turn pain to power, put faith in love, be firm and loyal, in yourself put trust, be twice the ocean, be twice the land, be twice the water, for your sons and daughters.
It's the next day, this time not a gap of 2 weeks, just one day. Let's finish this shit. So Maruja is a band that, just like LAUSSE the Cat, actually I discovered by scrolling through the highest rated albums on Album of the Year, but not from this year or 2025, from 2023 actually, when they released the EP Knock Noray, which is still my favorite EP of the decade so far. That thing is absolutely fucking incredible. The first time I heard it, immediately I was sold, and I was like, okay, this is one of the best bands working today. I need to pay attention to them. They're a 4-piece band, and they combine my 4 favorite instruments: electric guitar, bass, drums, and saxophone. That's right. Saxophone is just, it's such a beautiful instrument. You can do so much with it. It's a really underrated instrument, in my opinion, because a lot of people always connect it with jazz. And certainly Maruja have some jazz influences, but you can do so much more with a saxophone. So much more. Because Maruja is predominantly, I don't know, a punk band, a post-punk band, a post-rock band. There's a lot of hip hop influences, like the lead singer will often just go down into a verse, kind of new metal-esque. In fact, yeah, a lot of metal influences as well. It's just a hodgepodge again of a bunch of different shit. But a bunch of different shit that I fucking love. This band is basically made in the lab to fit my taste. So it's really no wonder that I love them. The next year in 2024, they released another EP, which is also fantastic, not quite as good, but that has The Invisible Man on it, so can't knock it too much. That's a fucking phenomenal track. And then a little after the release of that EP, I went to see them live in Brussels in a quite small venue, and goddamn, that is one of the best live performances I've seen. Fucking phenomenal stuff. Their energy live is just unmatched, and knowing all their songs going into it, because they didn't have that many, it was just so cool to hear all that shit live. And on top of all the songs I already knew, they also did some improvisation in the middle, which was fantastic, just super impressive. Yeah, there you can definitely see the jazz influences, where they just basically cook up I think it was like a 15-minute piece of post-rock goodness just live on the stage out of thin air. It's crazy. At the start of this year, they recorded some of their improvisations to make a 20-minute EP, Tir Nanog. I don't know how to pronounce it. That's another fantastic EP. Definitely not as good as the other two, though. Not good enough to make this list, but I mean, it's entirely improvised. It would be crazy if it was as good. But highly, highly impressive stuff either way. And with this trilogy of EPs, that's a generational run right there. And when they announced they would be finally releasing their debut album, I could not be more excited. This is the most excited I have ever been for an album. Just could not wait for the release date of that thing. It ended up getting overshadowed a little bit with an album that came out just a little bit earlier, which we'll talk about. That's the number one spot, obviously. So when my excitement kind of dwindled a little bit for some reason, because I was like, okay, it's not going to beat that. It's not going to be the best album of the year. But it should not have, okay? I should have just trusted these guys that they would be making a phenomenal album. And yeah, they did. They definitely fucking did. This release cycle started with Break the Tension, which at first I wasn't too crazy about, especially because the trilogy, the EP trilogy, kind of has this theme going on with the album covers where it's just these old, I think archived photos they got somewhere, or they make them themselves. I don't really know. I think it's a pretty cool idea, but it was starting to wear thin a little bit. So to see them come out with a single after those first two EPs that still continued on that theme, I was like, okay, is this just going to be their whole shtick? I'd like to see them try some other stuff. And I also wanted to see them experiment with their sounds a little bit more, which I'm not sure. I think that's asking for too much. I mean, their sound is perfect. I fucking love it. Why would I want them to change it? Yeah, for whatever reason, just Break the Tension didn't do it for me at first, but what the fuck, I was wrong. This is one of their best songs. It is on par with that original Perfect EP. I think honestly this is the quintessential Maruja song. If someone asks, hey, I want to get into these guys, could you send me a song? It's not necessarily my favorite, but I think it perfectly exemplifies their sound. So if you want to get into them, listen to that song, and then if you enjoy it, you can delve deeper. And then the same kind of pattern emerged with all the other singles, where the first time I listened to it, I'm like, this is really good, but I think it's their weakest song yet. I always thought that, and I was always fucking wrong. Seoris, is that how you pronounce it?
But it's pretty straightforward once you know. Saoirse.
Saoirse.
There is a famous...
Saoirse. Okay. So, especially the song Saoirse, which is this much slower, emotional kind of ballad with this repeating mantra of it's our differences that make us beautiful, which is very, very corny, which their lyrics can often be. But the first time I listened to it, that's kind of what I thought of the song. Oh, this is just kind of it's good. I like the build-up throughout. I like the message, but it didn't really tug at my heartstrings like that. But again, I was fucking wrong. This song is incredible. It's so fucking beautiful live as well. It hits so hard. Yes, it's not as heavy or as exhilarating as their other music, but it works perfectly on the album in between all the other songs. And it also works perfectly as a song on its own, by the way. Yes, that message is a little corny, but I've always been of the opinion that if you really have a message, which Maruja clearly has, that you want to spread out to the world, you might as well just spell it out. You know, what's the point of hiding it under a bunch of layers of metaphor when you can just be like, hey, this is our thing, this is what we stand for, here it is. I think that's great. And that is perfectly exemplified with the one single that did immediately excite me upon first listen. I mean, as soon as I saw that Maruja made a 10-minute long song, I was like, okay, this is gonna be the best song of the year. I was wrong about that, but it certainly is one of the best songs of the year and the best song off of this album. I'm talking about Look Down on Us, kind of the centerpiece of this whole project, this 10-minute long odyssey that goes to such a big range of emotions. First, that vitriolic anger that this band has had since the beginning. Anger at the people higher up, the people who look down on us. But then in the second half of the song, they're like, hey, maybe spreading hate, having a hateful message, just only being angry at the people above you, maybe that doesn't actually get us anywhere, and we should love thy neighbor, if you will. Again, corny as fuck, basic as fuck when I say it like that. And the lyrics are quite like straightforward, but they're not basic. Like, there is a lot to it, and I think it does hit really fucking hard when it comes out. When it comes out of my mouth, it doesn't, but when it comes out of this guy's mouth, this beautiful British, what's his fucking name actually? Harry Wilkinson. That's such a boring name. I believe every fucking word that comes out of his mouth, and whatever he says, I'm gonna be like, yeah, bro, you're right. You're fuck. I think the one problem with Look Down on Us is that it's too good. In that, yes, it is the centerpiece of the album, but it's kind of the centerpiece to a too far extent. That's not a sentence. What I mean is, everything that this album has to say is kind of already set in this song. This whole journey that the song goes through of grappling with love and hate, pain to power, that's kind of the whole point of the album. And it's kind of already completed on this song. It's like, yeah, we figured it out. We did it, guys. Obviously, it's not that simple, but I feel like this song perfectly explored that topic, and the other songs don't really bring that much new to the table. But I don't care. I think it kind of reminds me of Rage Against the Machine, where all of their songs have the same message, but who fucking gives a shit when it's incredible and the message is worth spreading, you know? In fact, the song Trenches on this album, which was the last single, very much sounds like a Rage Against the Machine song, especially that hook. That I'll see you in the trenches mantra totally sounds like something that could have come from a Rage Against the Machine project. And I love that band, so good song, very good song. I haven't talked about the opener yet, the Bloodsport. This is the perfect introduction to the album that they could have chosen. This album definitely went for a much heavier and darker sound than their first three EPs. I think for the most part you could classify this as a metal album. And Bloodsport is the perfect way of showcasing that. Like, it just starts off with this fucking blaring guitar. Oh my god. So yeah, blaring guitars, super heavy drums, super Rage Against the Machine-esque new metal rapping. But then the saxophone comes in. Then the fucking saxophone comes in. I think if you've never heard Maruja and you didn't know that they had a saxophonist, this would fucking blow your mind. Saxophone is not typically associated with heavy metal music, but it just works so fucking well, and there's so much emotion in there that I don't think I've ever heard come out of a saxophone. Like, the saxophone sounds angry. The saxophone sounds just like, what's his fucking name? Just like Harry Wilkinson's vocals. That's how the saxophone sounds. I didn't know that was possible, but it is, and it's phenomenal. Okay, I might as well just go through all the songs now that I'm doing this anyway. So, Born to Die, 10-minute long odyssey, just like Look Down on Us, also fucking incredible. Zayton, I think. That's more of an interlude, probably the weakest song on the album for me, but I think after the super heavy Trenches and Break the Tension, the break of tension is justified. And then Reconcile has definitely the corniest lyrics on the album. I think they're maybe just a little bit too basic, but fuck, what a closer. What a fucking closer, just yeah. This thing is phenomenal. Again, go listen to Break the Tension. If you like that, go listen to this whole album and their first 3 EPs. They don't have that much music, okay? You can just binge all that shit in like 2 hours. And you'll be a better man for it. You'll be a better man for it. I'm giving Pain to Power, which, did I even say the name a single time? I keep forgetting to say the names of the albums I'm reviewing. Pain to Power by Maruja is getting a 9.5 out of 10 from me. Most other years, this would be my favorite album of the year. But not this time. Not this time. I was convinced it was gonna be that. But no, that was until the number 1 album on this list came out. So let's get into that. Vanisher Horizon Scraper by Quadeca. There, I said the name of the album, I didn't forget to do that. Quadeca, man. Benjamin Lasky. That's the man right there. He used to be a YouTube rapper. He had this really big series back in the day where he used to imitate other rappers' styles of rapping, and he was fucking really good at that. Just a super talented rapper, everyone knew it, but his music was definitely YouTube rap. You know, nothing too out of the ordinary, nothing too revolutionary. And I liked watching him back in those days, because that was the type of shit I was into. I was an Eminem fanboy. This was my jam. So I quite enjoyed his music, the KSI diss track, all that stuff from back then. And then I kind of stopped watching him when he also basically stopped uploading until Sisyphus came out, which fucking collectively blew everybody's minds. It's still one of my favorite rap songs of the decade. Like, the rest of the album that came from that, From Me to You, I quite like. I think it's very underrated, but it certainly is no masterpiece or anything. I don't think anyone was expecting him to make a masterpiece anytime soon. He had just found his true artistic sort of identity as really more of a producer than a rapper. Don't get me wrong, he's a fantastic rapper. In fact, he's also a fantastic singer, which is something he would showcase later on. Mostly on For Me to You, he showed off his fantastic production talent. He always makes these really lush, vibrant, but also super intricate, just all over the place production. Yeah, again, nobody was expecting him to get it right the first try. Well, I guess it was his second try. But he did get it right the third try on I Didn't Mean to Haunt You. My favorite album of 2021. I'm not going to start talking about it because I'm going to be talking about it for way too long. All I'll say is that, as I alluded to, he showed off. He basically doesn't rap on that album. Basically, the only rap verse on it comes from Danny Brown. He mostly does incredible emotional singing and just mind-bending, universe-shaping production, which is what he continued to do on Scrapyard, which was a lot looser of a project that came out, was it 2023? 2024, yeah, that was last year. Fucking love that album. It's his album I've listened to the most. It's probably the album I've listened to the most from the decade so far, aside from probably Knock Naray by Maruja. It's actually fucking crazy that that album came out 2024 and the next year he makes Vanisher. How do you do that? That's crazy. The single rollout for Vanisher needs to be studied. It needs to be fucking studied. I think Godstained was the perfect song to start with. It's not the opener of the album, but I think it's the perfect song to introduce fans to this new sound he's going with. This ocean themed, very vibrant, a lot less, Didn't Mean to Haunt You, and a bit of Scrapyard, very dark. This is just super beautiful, like folky production that is honestly completely different from anything he'd done before, but it works fucking well. I love Godstained. Oh my god. Monday is definitely a continuation of that sound, but even more folky, even more singer-songwriter-y. And that's just like with the Maruja Singles one, I wasn't super crazy about at first, because it's not really the type of stuff I tend to gravitate towards. And it's still, I know this is a really hot take, it's still one of my least favorite songs from the album, but that doesn't mean anything. Like, it's phenomenal, it's an incredible track. It's one that you can show to anybody. Like, the rest of his music, I think it's still quite accessible, but you have to have, you know, a somewhat similar taste in music to me. But Monday, that's just something anybody can enjoy. That's just a fucking beautiful ballad. But I was not ready for what was to come with the next single, Foregone. I don't think it's a good idea to even try to. I'm fucking horrible at explaining why I love songs. Which makes you wonder why I'm the guy doing this. Best song of the decade. I feel like I've said a lot of things adjacent to that, but this time it's for real, okay? Best song of the decade so far. Not sure if anything will beat it, really. But still, somehow, I was not that excited for the album. I was really excited, but it was just the Maruja album. Kind of, for some reason, I can only be excited about one thing at a time. I don't know why my brain works like that, but the Maruja album was taking up all the space in my head. And I wasn't really even processing that Vanisher was coming out beforehand. But the day before the album came out, my excitement started to go up a little bit more. Because I saw this video. I don't remember the creator. I'll put it on the screen if I remember to do that. She did an entire comprehensive breakdown of the Vanisher single rollout. And yeah, seeing all of that, I was like, oh fuck. Okay, no, I'm ready for this. Okay, I'm ready. But then the next day, I open up this album. I see that's an hour and 15 minutes long. Scroll down a little bit just to look at the names, to look at the features. I see Danny Brown, who I fucking love. He was incredible on Didn't Mean to Haunt You, where he played the character of carbon monoxide, which I don't think anyone has ever done before, ever. And I saw a comment on that video I was just talking about, where someone said Danny Brown is going to play a sea monster on the next album because, you know, this album had a whole ocean theme going on. And I thought that was really funny. It was true. It was fucking true. He does play a sea monster. But I scroll down a little bit further, and who do I see? If not Maruja. Huh? This is my favorite artist working today, probably. Collaborating with my favorite band working today, probably. I did not see that coming, and that fucking moment, that was probably the most excited, the happiest I've been in my entire life. That's an exaggeration, but still, I was going insane. I was like, fuck, I need to listen to an hour of album before I can get to that song. I want to listen to it right now. But no, that would be cheating. You can't do that. You have to start at the top. And the journey I was about to embark on, the sailing trip across the globe to discover all of the great and bad things that life has to offer, was one of a kind. That is the best first listen experience I've ever had of an album, and I'm not sure if it'll ever be topped. Every song after the next blew my socks off. Every time, most of these tracks start at one place where you're like, okay, I like this folky thing, I like this rappy thing, whatever the fuck he's doing. Every song is completely different, but it all works together. It's crazy. And you're like, okay, that's what the song is. This is a folk song, you know, just like Monday. And then it just does something that you've never heard before and goes in a completely different direction than what you were expecting. But every time it works, and every time it blew my feeble little fucking mind. I needed the singles in between those songs so I could have some time to breathe, so I could have some time to be like, okay, this is stuff I know. This is stuff where my brain can heal a little bit from all the destruction that the other songs have caused it, in a good way. I'm not going to go through all the songs here. It's just pointless. They're all phenomenal. Literally every single track is fucking incredible. I think I want to highlight the second half a bit more, because that's where it's at. This album is the number one counterexample to what I have dubbed the second half curse, where the second half of an album tends to be weaker than the first half. Here that's not true, because around the middle, it's a little after the middle of this emotional roller coaster, you get the ambient track, I Dream About Sinking, which, dare I say, the best ambient music I've ever heard. And the perfect way to kick off the second half, which goes in a lot more of a dark direction. Definitely takes a dark turn after that ambient interlude, and kind of goes into pockets that are a little bit more familiar for Quadeca, with like the I Didn't Mean to Haunt You sound, even though it's still wildly different. But specifically the song Thunder, that sounds like something that could have come from Scrapyard. I think that's definitely the most different sounding song on here. It's the only one where the electronic elements come out a lot more. That song goes fucking hard. That song goes so goddamn hard. Quadeca did like a little Europe tour, and I didn't go see him. I should have. I really fucking should have, because even if it's just to hear this song live, there's so many amazing songs that I want to hear live, but specifically this one I think would blow up the fucking room. I'm mouthing. I need to go see this guy live soon, okay? Anyway, after that is an even fucking crazier experimental rap song, The Great Bakunawa, which is the one that has a Danny Brown feature, which is the best Danny Brown verse I have ever fucking heard. He is a sea serpent. He became the sea serpent. He does it. Any other album, that would be one of my favorite songs of the album. Any other year, that would be my favorite song of the year. But guess what? The 2 songs after this are even fucking better, because you get Foregone. You get Foregone after this. So when I listened to this within the context of the album for the first time, I cried my fucking eyes out. I typically do not cry just from listening to music without, external factors influencing the cry. I was the happiest I've ever been at that moment. And that's why I cried like a little goddamn baby. Just having witnessed this entire Quadeca journey from YouTube rapper to this, still to this day, watching a lot of YouTube videos with him in it, because Hive Mind, that's one of my favorite YouTube channels. If you haven't checked them out, they make incredible music related content. They're probably the 2 funniest guys on the entire internet, and they often invite Ben on the show, where he has become a fan favorite guest. Like, he's genuinely just such a likable guy.
I had an idea. You want to hear this?
Sure. Yeah.
Who Wants to Be a Millionaire for Billionaires, where it's just a threat. Hosted by the IRS.
So to feel like I kind of know this guy more personally than I know any other, like, I'm not trying to say I have like a parasocial relationship with him or anything, but I've never really experienced that where I like feel like I kind of know an artist, what their personality is like outside of their artist persona. It's just an unmatched feeling. It's really weird to feel proud of someone that you've never met in your life, but that's what I was at that moment. I was like, God fucking damn it, dude. He did it. He did it. He became one of my favorite artists of all time. He made one of my favorite songs of all time. This is a 10 out of 10 song. Anything that can give me that experience is something special. It's something special. But we're not done yet. Because I'm not even sure if Foregone is the best song on the album. I am sure it is the best song of the album, but Casper is close. Casper is really fucking close. That's the one with Maruja. Probably my favorite Maruja song, which is What It Feels Like. It fits perfectly on the album, just like everything. But it kind of feels like a Maruja song, even though Ben has claimed that he wrote all of it and they just kind of played over it, which I definitely believe. Like, it very much feels still like a Quadeca song. It's kind of crazy, like Quadeca and Maruja's music is so fucking different, and meanwhile this track feels simultaneously like a Quadeca song and like a Maruja song. It's like, it's a paradoxical track. The ending of this, where it kind of simulates the idea of like going underwater, coming back out of the water, going underwater again, where the sound gets really muffled and then it explodes and then it gets really muffled. That's so the craziest thing I've ever heard at the end of an album. Like, it's just such a fucking insane way to end this thing. But I couldn't think of anything better. How do you even finish a journey like that, where it feels like you've kind of lived an entire lifetime? That's what this album feels like. You've gone through all the stages of life. So ending this with what I can only presume to be death, the great Bakunawa catching up to you. I mean, there's no other way. That's the only thing that could give this a worthy ending. And it's definitely my favorite moment on the album. But it's one of those things where if I just showed it to you right now, you might not be super impressed. But that's not, no. You have to listen to this front to back, and then this'll hit, okay? And it hits even harder on the movie, which I haven't even mentioned yet. Quadeca has this tradition of making full-length movies that go along with the whole album song to song. He always goes off to a bunch of different like abandoned locations to film every part. Like here, there's a part where he's singing in the water next to like a abandoned house that's underwater, which is like the fucking coolest thing I've ever seen. A bunch of incredible locations like that. And then on the last song, the camera does what you hear in the music with the going underwater, going back up again. And I definitely highly recommend, if you like this album and you haven't watched the film. I've only watched it once myself, but it's definitely worth checking out. It's not like necessarily a narrative feature or anything. Obviously, it does tell a story like the album itself, but it's quite abstract. It's essentially just a series of music videos. But they're really, really, really good music videos, okay? To some really, 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 really good songs. I've noticed I've said really, really a lot in this video. So I gotta emphasize that this is more than the previous really release, because it's my favorite album. So I have to say a lot of release to really get the point across. Did I yap enough? Is that enough yap? There was probably more that I wanted to say. I could talk about this thing for 10 hours straight, but I won't. Okay, I won't. And I know not everyone loves this as much as me, and I know a lot of people have been kind of shitting on Quadeca fans a little bit for being the #1 glazers on this planet. And yeah, I am definitely up there with the biggest Quadeca glazers, but he deserves it, man. He fucking deserves it. This album cannot be put into words. I feel like that's kind of a trend with all of my favorite stuff. Like, I think I've said that a lot in this video where it's like a big hodgepodge of different genres, but this is the #1 example of that. Every song sounds different. He said that before the album came out, that every song was gonna sound different, and I didn't really believe him, because Godstained and Monday are somewhat similar, but now I'm realizing they are quite different, and every song on this album definitely has a unique flavor to it. Some go in more of a pop direction. In fact, I didn't mention That's Why and Dancing Without Moving, which are just such catchy tracks. I catch myself singing those hooks all the time. Yeah, so there are more poppy songs, there's more folky songs, more rappy songs, more ambient songs. It's all over the place, but it just all comes together to paint this beautiful narrative. It's one of my favorite albums of all time already. I've never, ever given an album a 9.5 out of 10 or higher upon first listen, except with Paint the Power this year and with this album. Except I didn't give it a 9.5 out of 10 immediately. I gave it a 10. Which definitely no subsequent listen has hit as hard as that first one. But I mean, any album that can give me that experience deserves nothing less than a 10 out of 10. So that's what I'm giving it. Whew. Okay, is that half the video? Is the Quadeca part half the video? I feel like the Paint the Power and the Quadeca part together is gonna be a sizable chunk of this goddamn video. I hope I finish editing this before the end of the month. That's my goal. We'll see. Do you agree with that? Do you agree with a 10 out of 10 for Vanisher? Probably not. Have you even listened to it? Have you listened to any of the other albums? What do you think of all of those? What's your favorite ice cream flavor? There's just a lot of stuff that you could be discussing in the comments right now. There's a lot of different ways you could give me some engagement. You know, you could share this video, you could like this video, you could start a political debate in the comments, although probably don't do that, but I'm not gonna stop you. No, but in all seriousness, thank you for watching. I don't know how many people are gonna get this far. I really, genuinely, no joke, thought this was gonna be a smaller video, and it wasn't gonna be over an hour long, but I'm pretty sure it is going to be over an hour long. I've already edited the first 6 albums, but still, this obviously hasn't and will not take me anywhere near as long as my other videos. The Radiohead one took me literally a year to make. This one, it's kind of crazy that the best work ethic I've had for my YouTube channel was during my finals. I think there's just something about being in that locked in state anyway that just drives productivity, even if it's not for what I should be productive in. And it also obviously helps that I didn't do anything this month in my life. I've just been here in this room, basically. And it also obviously helps that this video was unscripted. It's my first unscripted video. I think I'm not the best at just free-flowing, saying shit, like you can tell right now, and you can tell in the whole video. But I tried my best. I think it came out pretty good, or at least parts I've edited right now came out pretty good. So yeah, holy fuck, I should stop yapping. Thank you for watching. I have some very important stuff to get to, which for the first time on this channel is actually true. Bye-bye.